Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsha Rishibhyo Namo Gurubhyaha. We were looking at the Maitreyo Brahmanam, where Yajnavalkya sets out to become a sannyasi. So he calls his wives, two wives, and tells them that he wants to distribute his wealth between them before he leaves. Now, one of them, Katyayani, is happy to have all the wealth because Yajnavalkya was a very wealthy person. He had a lot of cows, gold, etc. in those days. But his other wife, Maitreyi, who is known as Brahmavadini, okay, so that is because she asked this question here. So what did she ask? She said that even if I have all the wealth in this world, this entire earth is mine and all the resources in that are also mine. Okay, so Sarva Prithivi Vittena Purna Syat. So this entire wealth of this earth along with the earth is mine. Still, how can I have immortality with that? Like that, she is asking a question. Her question itself says something about her vairagya, her understanding of karma phala, what can be had with wealth, what cannot be had, etc. So we can see that here. Then Yajnavalkya, what does he say? He says, no, you cannot have immortality or amritatvam with all the wealth which is there. But that doesn't mean that wealth is useless. Her money is not required and all that. In fact, Yajnavalkya himself says that. He says that with wealth, you will also be like others who are having all the upakarnas. Upakarnas means you can say all the appliances for a comfortable life, correct? Yatha eva upakarnavatam jivitam tathaiva te jivitam. So however is the life of a person with all that can be bought with money, in the same way your life also will be. Means what? You can have a comfortable life with money. Of course, all of you know that many people say all these sayings are all there. That money can buy the books, but it cannot make you read. Money can get you a lot of food, but it cannot make you hungry. Like that. So money has purchasing power. We appreciate that. But still, for you to enjoy, the bhogya vastu alone is not enough, correct? The vishaya, which is going to give you some pleasure, that vishaya or object alone is not enough. You also have to be ready. That's why, in fact, this Prithivi Sarva Vittasya Purna Syat, like that, or here Vittena Purna Syat is there. But in Taittiriya Upanishad also a similar phrase is used. There is Ananda Mimamsa in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Okay, so there in fact it starts Saishanandasya Mima Gumsa Bhavati Yuva Syat Sadhu Yuvadhyayakaha Ashishto Dradishto Balishtaha Tasyevam Prithvi Sarva Vittasya Purna Syat Sayeko Manusha Anandaha Te Shatam Manusha Anandaha Sayeko Manushya Gandharvanam Anandaha Shrotriyasya Chakamaha Tasya, like that. In fact, it keeps on going. Then Te Shatam Manushya Gandharvanam Anandaha. So this Taittiriya Upanishad also uses a similar phrase, Sarva Vittasya is there instead of Vittena, but Prithivi Sarva Vittasya Purna Syat means there it is analyzing what is Ananda, this Brahmananda. So how do we even explain this Brahmananda? We have to start from Manushya Ananda only, right? Whatever Ananda we are experiencing here, whatever pleasure, whatever happiness, whatever joy we are experiencing here with reference to whatever objects of enjoyment which we have, based on that only we have to now say what is this Atmananda or Brahmananda which we are talking about, which is also immortal in the sense that it is not something which comes and goes. It is not subjected to time. It is your very nature. That is the idea there. So there, when this analysis is done, how is this Ananda defined? Here also Maitreya is defining very similarly. How this Vishayananda is defined, it says, Yuva Syat Sadhu Yuva Dhyayakaha. So there is a person who is Yuva, youth. Okay. So youth is the best time to enjoy. You enjoy your life. We all also talk about our days in the college, during school, maybe in the high school, and later on when you initially joined your job and all that, correct? When you are young. So when you are young, all your senses, your body, etc., is in prime condition for whatever you want to enjoy. So that is talked about here. Then, but young means young also is a restless time, correct? Young and restless, like that. We even have a usage. Being restless, you cannot enjoy much. That is why the word sadhu also is used here. Sadhu means what? One who does not have any conflict, one who does not have any guilt or fear or anything like that. The one who has a certain disposition of mind. So Yuva tells that you have a certain disposition of your body and senses, but Sadhu tells that you have a certain disposition of your mind which is ideal for enjoying. In fact, for many people, it is the other way around, correct? When you are Yuva, you are Asadhu, you are not Sadhu. But when you attain certain maturity, you attain certain taste, correct, in terms of what you enjoy, the finer aspects of things. But now you are no more Yuva. So that is a problem. But now Upanishad says this person is Yuva and he is Sadhu. He is a connoisseur, okay, let us say. And he has the mindset or state of mind to enjoy properly. And also very educated, cultured. Adhyayakaha means he has done Vedadhyayanam and all that. All the knowledge he has. Because the more knowledge you have, the more you can appreciate something, correct? What is appreciate, even the same thing, let us take a song, for example. How a normal person enjoys that song will be very different from somebody who knows music, who has undergone some training, who can appreciate both the melody and even the technical aspects of a particular song, let us say. Then the enjoyment is much more. Like that, knowledge also he has, adhyayakaha. And not only that, ashishtaha. Ashishtaha generally means again the one who has undergone education and all that. But here Bhashyakara gives a different meaning because already adhyayakaha is there, correct? So ashishtaha means one who does not waste any time. He enjoys the things at the right time, it seems, without procrastinating. So even let us say that you want to enjoy a nice curd rice, correct? It's a very simple thing. Every day we have curd rice at home. But even to enjoy a nice curd rice, you have to enjoy that curd at the right time. I really like the curd not to be very sour, but it cannot be very milky also. It has to be at the right, let us say, state where it is neither sour but not milky. Then only the curd rice is good. That means the Vishaya which you want to enjoy should not become whatever, it should not lose its state where it can give you some joy, correct? So the one who enjoys things at the right time is the Ashishtaha, does not procrastinate. He, in whatever the right time, he enjoys things. Whatever is to be enjoyed at the right time, at that time you enjoy that thing. Not when the time is past and all that, when it may become whatever, putrid and all that. It's not good anymore. Another thing is what? Dradishtaha. Also one who is courageous, one who has a certain resolve, one who is firm. Once you have decided something, you don't stop, you don't give up. That is the kind of person that person is. He is young, he has a correct conflict-free mind, good state of mind to enjoy things. He is educated, and one who again enjoys things at the right time, and one who has certain courage, firmness, resolve, and all that. Dradishtaha means all the ishtaha, the Dradishtaha, Ashishtaha, Balishtaha, and all that is like superlative. Okay, we have he has the best kind of resolve. Okay, and Balishtaha also. Just courage is not enough, correct? If you are weak, just going and showing your courage means the other guy gives a slap, you are gone. That's it. It's not like that. He is strong also. Balishtaha, he has the body which is strong, mind is also strong. So strength also is there, courage is there, everything is there, because the entire wealth of the Prithvi also is there along with all these things. So to enjoy something, you require external objects which will give you joy. You require your internal organs, Adhyatmika, with reference to yourself also, you have to be ready to enjoy. Only when both of them are aligned, are in good condition, then some enjoyment is there. But even such enjoyment is anitya only. It doesn't last forever. It goes away. So even a person with all this, whatever we described right now, has one Manushya Ananda. That's how the Upanishad is giving a unit of Ananda. It is first giving a unit of Manushya Ananda, and then says Manushya Gandharva is a class of beings, divine beings. They have 100 times of this Manushya Ananda. That is what in that, if you go and read the Taittiriya Upanishad, Ananda Mimamsa, it is saying that. And then, but the Shrotriya and Akama Hataha has the same thing. The one who has studied the Shastra, one who has this Jnanam, Brahma Jnanam, and one who is not disturbed by any Kama towards all these Vishayas. Okay, one who has certain Vairagya, dispassion. For that person also the same Ananda as the whatever, Manushya Ananda, Manushya Gandharva Ananda, like that it keeps on going. It gives a whole list of divine beings whose Ananda is 100 times more, 100 times more, 100 times more, like that. Manushya Gandharva, Deva Gandharva, then Pitrinanchara Loka Lokanam, like that, those who live in the Pitru Loka, correct? And then Ajanajanan Devanam, Ajanajanam Devaha, like that, there is a class of Devas. Then Karma Devas are there. They are like Ye Karma Deva, Ye Karmana Devan Apiyanti, like that also the Upanishad says. So they help the Devas by doing some odd jobs to the other Devas. Then the actual Devas. And then Indra, who is the ruler of Devas. Then Brihaspati, who is the Deva Guru, he is higher than Indra also. Correct? And then finally Prajapati, who is there, and then Brahmanaha Ananda is talked about finally. So like this, by giving you an idea from this Manushya Ananda only, up to Brahmananda is talked about. And in all these cases, the one who has studied the Shastra also has the same, because it is Swarupa for that person. Swarupa Ananda, it is not dependent on anything. So normal joy is dependent on something. It is dependent, not independent, not uh, inherent, correct, in oneself. So that is the problem. So now, if Manushya, even like Manushya Gandharva and others are having 100 times, 100 times, 100 times of Manushya Ananda, even they do not have Amritatva, correct? That is the point I'm trying to make here. Then what about Maitreyi? Even if, of course, she is going to have Yajnavalkya's wealth, which is a lot, but then even that will be puny compared to the entire wealth of the world. But even with the entire wealth of the world and all this, whatever conditions about a person which I told you, one Manushya Ananda is there, that also is nothing. So with that Manushya Ananda, how are you going to have Amritatvam? There is no hope. That's what Yajnavalkya says here. But money can still give you something, it can give you comfort. So this is what I always like to say this, that when I first went to US, so what I was able to find out in US was that in India, people were uncomfortably unhappy. In US, people were comfortably unhappy. That was the main difference. So whether, in fact, sometimes all the comfort makes you even more unhappy, I think. Because even Pujya Swamiji, my guru, used to say that modern life, what is tragic in modern life is all your luxuries becomes need. They get transformed into needs. That means there is more problem for you. So when we were growing up, many things were luxuries. In fact, even air conditioning used to be a big luxury for us. In fact, we used to go to the cinema theater. AC cinema theater was a big deal for us when we were growing up, when we were in school. Just to sit in the air condition, we used to take some ticket and go in. Whatever is the movie, we don't know it. How good it is, bad it is, ugly, we don't know about that. So we used to feel good just sitting in the air conditioned hall. That was our idea of luxury. But then you grow up, you are sitting all the time in some AC office and all that, then you get used to it, in fact, correct? It's no more a luxury. It becomes a need. So if something becomes a need, then it is going to give a problem for you when it is not there. So that's what is happening, correct? After a certain extent, if luxuries become needs, then that itself is a problem. But that is the situation of most of the people. So being in such a situation, there is no hope of having any immortality. So that's what Yajnavalkya explains, that he says very nicely here. So Amritatvasya tu nasha asti vittena. There is no hope of getting Amritatvam or immortality with wealth. So here Bhashyakara, as usual, this vitta is taking it as a upalakshana for karma, because with wealth you are supposed to do karma and also have punya. In fact, even in the Taittiriya Upanishad Bhashya, Bhashyakara is very great. He says sarva vitta means not only the physical wealth, he says, but you also have, with the wealth, you have done a lot of karma and you have a lot of punya also. Apurva also he has, it seems. So he has a lot of good karma, punya, that also is going to give that person pleasant experience, correct? So when he defines that Manushya Ananda, Bhashyakara very interestingly includes in the vitta not only the physical wealth which we think of normally, but he says that with that wealth you can do karma and have punya. That punya also he has fully, it seems. So here also this vitta is taken as an upalakshana for karma and karma phala. That means with any karma phala, any amount of karma phala, you are not going to get amritatvam. That is the idea here. So up to this we saw. Now what? Saho vacha Maitreyi yena aham na amritasyam kimaham tena kuryam yadeva bhagavan veda tadeva me bruhi iti. So now Maitreyi says, see, what will I do with that which will not give me this immortality, correct? So yena aham, na amritasyam. So by which I will not become immortal. Tena kimaham kuryam. With that, what will I do? Okay, that's what she is saying. Therefore, what? Yadeva Bhagavan Veda. So whatever you know, hey Bhagavan. So that is how, in fact, before also she addressed Yajnavalkya as Bhagoho. Means Bhagavan as a word we have already discussed. In the context of Ishvara, it has a certain meaning. But here also Bhagavan means one who knows this Atma Jnanam only is called Bhagavan. Sarvajnaha is called Bhagavan here. The one who knows everything. And Yajnavalkya is such a jnani. So she is addressing him even though he is her husband, but she is also addressing him as Bhagavan. Means this also shows a certain thing that she is now accepting him as a guru also. Of course, in general, even the traditionally what is said is the husband has to become the guru of the wife. After the Vivaha Samskara, husband is supposed to be the guru of the wife because husband has already done Gurukula Vasa. Wife, what will she do? For her, husband only is the guru. Husband has to teach everything, whatever the husband has learnt in the Gurukulam. So like that also is already there. But here, anyway, by saying Bhagavan, we can say that she is addressing now Yajnavalkya as the one who knows this Jnanam, one who knows how to gain this Amritatvam, immortality. And now she says, whatever you know as the sadhanam for Amritatvam, that now you teach me, you tell me, because I'm not interested in all this wealth. You can give it to, in fact, Katyayani, she is very interested. Let her take all the wealth. You are leaving all this wealth and going somewhere for something. Now you give me that. I don't want this. So she has the maturity to ask for that. Means she has done already some analysis of karma phala, and what it can do and what it cannot do. So on the basis of that, she is now asking. So let us see Bhashyakara. Saho vacha Maitreyi eva mukta pratyuvacha Maitreyi. So in this manner, being told in this manner, she says, she answers. What does she say? Yadi, yat it means yadi, Bhashyakara gives. So yadi evam yena aham na amritasyam kimaham tena vittena kuryam. So with all this wealth, what will I do if it is not going to give me immortality? Yadeva Bhagavan Kevalam Amritatva Sadhanam Veda. So whatever you have known as the means for immortality, Tadeva Amritatva Sadhanam me Mahyam Bruhi. So that alone, that means of immortality alone, now you tell me. That's what she says. Now hearing this, Yajnavalkya is very happy. Okay, so he is very pleased that she has this maturity. In fact, all teachers are very pleased if we have a qualified student, correct? There is nothing more pleasing than that. So now he says, Saho vacha Yajnavalkyaha priya bata are naha sati priyam bhashasa yehi asva vyakhyāsyāmite vyachakshanasya tu me nididhyasasva iti. So Saho vacha Yajnavalkyaha. So Yajnavalkya told her. Saha Yajnavalkyaha ha uvacha. He indeed said. What did he say? Priya sati, being dear to me. Already you are a priya. You are dear to me. And are also he says, hey dear, you are already my love. You are very pleasing to me. I am very pleased with you. Okay. And bata also is again a particle. Means it shows some tenderness. Okay. So here priya sati means being. This is called sati saptami in Sanskritam. So you are already dear and loving to me, but now you are saying whatever you have said is even more pleasing to me. That's what he says. Priyam bhashasa. So being dear and being pleasing, you are now telling me something which is even more pleasing to me, which is very pleasing to me. I really like to hear that. And therefore what he says, yehi, come here. asva, sit near me, I will teach you. Okay, vyakyasyami. So I will explain to you this Amritatva Sadhanam. Come here, sit near me. Means now this is their relationship is already there as husband and wife. Now this is more like a Guru Shishya. So she has become a Shishya and Yajnavalkya is the Guru now here. Now from this what we can understand is this Vedanta you cannot teach anybody just like that. Correct? You cannot teach even your wife. You cannot teach your best friend. Unless they ask you, you cannot teach. Correct? Unless it is asked, it cannot be given. Same thing in Bhagavad Gita also. Correct? Krishna and Arjuna are great friends. They have gone on many escapades all over the country and all that. They have been together for a long time. But then Krishna never taught any Vedanta to Arjuna. But on the verge of the battle, Arjuna is confused. Then he says explicitly, Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam. So I take refuge in you. I am your Shishya. Please teach me. He asked like that explicitly. Then only Bhagavan starts teaching. Okay. So this Vedanta cannot be taught just like that, or it cannot be preached on roads and all that. It is like any other subject matter, correct? Nobody can preach quantum mechanics on a signal or something. You cannot stop people and preach advanced mathematics or anything like that. Unless you go and enroll in the university, they are not going to teach you. Similarly, here it is very clear that unless Maitreyi asks for it, Yajnavalkya cannot give it, in fact, really. And he is very pleased that she has asked for this. And so he says, I will teach you. Okay, Vyakyasyam. And then he says, Te Vyachakshanasya tu me nididhyasasva. So whatever I teach you, correct? So whatever I am teaching you, you listen to that carefully. Okay. You nididhyasasva means here literally you meditate on that. Whatever I tell you, you try to grasp it with all your attention. And then you also think about it so that you can assimilate it. So the nididhyasasva means you have to make an effort to assimilate. It's not some casual listening, correct? See, listening to Vedanta itself is a very, it's an involved process. When we study Vedanta, it is not that we are accumulating facts. That is not the intent. Even when you attend a Vedanta class, it is not to know that there are 3 bodies, 5 koshas, all this. Details, of course, we will teach you all the details of a particular methodology. But the facts themselves are not important. It is not factual knowledge in the sense that you are just trying to know something. It is very intimate because it is about yourself. It is not some objective factual knowledge. That's what I am trying to tell you. The thing is, all our lives, we have learned things objectively, factually, and it's also memory based. But Vedanta is about yourself. It is a very intimate thing. So whenever you are listening to Vedanta, you have to see yourself through the words of your Guru, through the words of the Shastra. So you are now seeing yourself in the light of whatever the Shastra is revealing. Because Shastra is the mirror here. Shastra Darpanam, that's why we say. It is a word mirror. And that word alone is being taught to you by the Guru also. So the Guru has a certain vision. That vision has to be transferred to the student only through the medium of words. So the words have to, if they have to hit the target, means those words have to really make you see who you are. It is about you. Each and every sentence in Vedanta is about you. It is not it is not about some other object or some factually something you have to know about something else. The words of the Veda have to transform the way you look at yourself. That is the idea of listening also. So when you are listening to a guru as a student of Vedanta, assuming that you are already having certain idea about what you really want, you want only moksha, you have a certain maturity emotionally, intellectually also you are mature, and you have analyzed what you really want. You have a certain understanding of your fundamental problem. All these things, if you have, you are qualified. Then when you listen to the Shastra, when you listen to the Guru, it is you are seeing yourself in each and every sentence of the Shastra, of the Guru. It has to transform yourself. Here, that is how you have to listen. That's what even here, when Yajnavalkya says Nididhyasasva, means whatever insight you are gaining from the words of the Shastra has to transform you. It has to be assimilated and it has to transform you, because many times, even if you understand what the Shastra says clearly, that insight alone is not enough. An insight has to be repeated. Then only it can change you. Otherwise, the insight is too weak. In fact, many people also, this is a common experience among Vedanta students also, is what? During the class, everything is nice. Everything is clear. Everything looks like, yeah, this is it. I understand it. But after the class is over, again you are into day-to-day life, and then it is no more the same. Means nididhyasasva. You have to repeat the insight. Unless the insight is repeated and you transform the way you look at yourself, this kind of a yo-yo will be there, correct? During the class, something is there. After the class, if that knowledge is not available to you, then you can fall back into the same thinking pattern which you were having before as an individual, and that can affect you. So this particular aspect of listening to the Shastra and then recollecting it and just thinking about it itself is very important. That repeating the insight, I would say, is the nididhyasasva here. So repeated insight is very valuable, is very important. That also makes it clear to you. It will make it clearer and clearer. Clarity is one thing, strength is another thing. So the knowledge has to be clear and it has to become strong enough so that it is available to you always. So after some time, you don't have to even repeat the insight, correct? After your habits, your habitual tendencies, you have to overcome. Till then, this insight has to be repeated. But then afterwards, it has become your nature now. That is what we call sahaja. So till it becomes sahaja, you have to recollect the teaching all the time. And in fact, it also happens somewhat automatically, right? If you are so interested in the subject matter, wherever there is interest, the focus will automatically come. So this also my Guruji used to say always. What he used to say, because many people used to ask him, how do I concentrate my mind? How do I focus on something? The focusing on something is not a problem. It depends on your interest, correct? Wherever your interest is, there your mind will automatically focus. There your concentration will be there. If somebody is interested in movies, means the way they watch the movie only you can see how they are involved totally in that, correct? Like that, once Vedanta and the subject matter itself you have understood to an extent that you are totally interested in that to the exclusion of everything else, focusing and all is not a big deal. You will automatically focus. In fact, you will be all the time only thinking about it. It somewhat happens without much effort really. But that is a very important thing. So let us say what Bhashyakara says quickly. Saho vachayakyavalkyaha evam vitta sadhye amritatvam sadhane pratyakhyate yajnavalkyaha swa abhipraya sampattau tushtaha aha. Okay, so now this Yajnavalkya said, what did he say? In this manner, already in the third Vakya, what has been said? Vitta sadhye amritatva sadhane pratyakhyate. So pratyakhyate means rejected or denied and all that. Okay. So this vitta, wealth or whatever you can achieve through wealth, are denied or rejected as a sadhana for amritatvam, for immortality. So having rejected wealth as a means for gaining immortality, already in this manner, whatever their conversation pointed to that. Now Yajnavalkya is very pleased because Maitreyi also agrees to that, correct? So Swa Abhipraya Sampattau, so again his own whatever opinion or his own knowledge is now in keeping with whatever Maitreyi's understanding also. His understanding and Maitreyi's understanding with reference to how to gain immortality, at least it cannot be gained through wealth, that is very clear. That shows a certain vairagya of Maitreyi, certain maturity. So he is very pleased with that. Tushtaha, being pleased that Maitreyi has this understanding which is in keeping with his own understanding about the means for immortality. He now says, Saho Vacha. What did he say? Priya, Ishta. So you are very desirable person, dear to me. Bata iti anukampaya aha. Anukampya aha means that's what he is. Anukampya means you can say with compassion or tenderness. So with tenderness he says, Are Maitreyi, oh dear Maitreyi, you are my love. You are a lovely person. And also what? Naha asmakam. So for me, purvamapi priya sati. Already being priya, okay, being lovely. Sati means bhavanti, like that Bhashyakara gives even for that. That this is a seventh case, feminine. So he says bhavanti. Idanim priyameva. Right now also you are talking something which is pleasing. Priyameva chitta anukulam bhashase. You are telling something pleasing which is in keeping with whatever is my understanding. Correct? Therefore, what? Ataha yehi. Therefore, come here, come near me. Asva upavisha, sit. Asva means sit. Vyakyasyami. I will teach you. I will explain to you what that. Yatte tava ishtam amritatva sadhanam atmajnanam kathayishyami. So whatever this te alone is there in the Upanishad Vakya. So Bhashyakara says whatever is desirable, whatever you have desired, correct, is desirable to you, which is amritatva sadhana, the means for immortality, which is nothing but atmajnanam. So this atmajnanam, which is the means for immortality, that I will tell you, I will teach you. Kathayishyami. Vyachakshanasya tu me mama vyakhyanam kurvataha. So me here means mama vyakhyanam kurvata, one who is going to give this vyakhyana vyachakshanasya nididhyasasva vakyani. So the one, see, I am the one who is going to teach you. Now the teacher's words, the sentences, that's what he says. So Vyakhyanam kurvataha vakyani nididhyasasva. So whatever I say, all these sentences, all these words, you actually, you understand it, then you also reflect on it, correct? So you reflect on its meaning. Arthataha nischayena dhyatum ichchayati. So you reflect on it and also have a desire to clearly understand it and reflect on it. You should have that desire at least. So you should listen to your teacher in a particular manner with this desire that whatever the Guru is saying, those words I'll try to understand. I'll reflect on it. And also in the light of those words, I'll have to see myself, and that alone will really transform me. So that is the idea here. Nididhyasasva vakyani arthataha nischayena dhyatum ichha iti. So may you desire to reflect on all these words and their meaning, okay, to ascertain exactly their whatever is their import, and thereby you gain this knowledge. Okay, now the actual teaching starts here with the fifth Vakya, which is a very, very important, highly quoted, famous portion of Brhadaranyaka Upanishad itself. So now what does Yajnavalkya say? So he wants to again build up on this Vairagya, which already she has, correct? Maitreyi has. So he is making it very clear here. So what does he say? He says, Saho vacha nava are patyuh kamaya patih priyo bhavati atmanastu kamaya patih priyo bhavati nava are jaya yai kamaya jaya priya bhavati atmanastu kamaya jaya priya bhavati nava are putranam kamaya putrah priya bhavanti atmanastu kamaya putrah priya bhavanti nava are vittasya kamaya vittam priyam bhavanti atmanastu kamaya vittam priyam bhavanti nava are brahmanah kamaya brahma priyam bhavati atmanastu kamaya brahma priyam bhavati nava are kshatrasya kamaya kshatram priyam bhavati atmanastu kamaya kshatram priyam bhavati nava are lokanam kamaya lokah priya bhavanti atmanastu kamaya lokah priya bhavanti nava are devanam kamaya devah priya bhavanti atmanastu kamaya devah priya bhavanti nava are bhutanam kamaya bhutani priyani bhavanti atmanastu kamaya bhutani priyani bhavanti nava are sarvasya kamaya sarvam priyam bhavanti atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. So whole list is there. So what is the idea here? That any object, whether it is your spouse, whether it is your children, whether it is wealth, whether it is other beings, people, different types of people, correct? Brahmana, Kshatriya, or even heaven and all these lokas which you want to attain after giving up this body. All of them are other than you. They are all anatma only, and they are all objects. They are all object of your knowledge. And these objects are Vishaya, they give you some ananda. At least that's what we think. But even that ananda they are giving, therefore it is, you are loving it, it is pleasing to you and all that. So you say I love you to somebody means, why do you say I love you? Because that person is bringing the pleased self in you. In fact, that person makes you discover a pleased you in yourself. You are interested in that pleased you only, pleased I, the pleased self. Everybody is interested in being pleased. Oneself has to be pleased, and whichever object is incidentally invoking your pleased self, that object you say I love you. But if that object does not invoke the pleased self in you, then you allow that object to go away. Love will become allow. That's all. You have to allow it to go away. So that is true with reference to all these things. In fact, Bhashyakara says there is a taratamya in this. You start with Pati and Jaya, or husband and wife. Husband and wife are the most intimate and close, and you really love the other person and all that. Correct? But even the love for your husband or your wife is only again a love because that person is invoking a pleased self. It is all for the purpose or for the sake of yourself alone. You do not love your husband for husband's sake. It is for your sake only. It is for oneself, for the sake of the self alone. Atmanastu kamaya patih priyo bhavati. So pati also becomes priyaha. or Jaya, his wife, then Putra, one's own children also. So we see that many parents and children do not get together, particularly once they become teenagers, it becomes very difficult. And later on, maybe they patch up and all that. Once the children themselves, they become parents, then they understand their parents better. Now they have a lot of love, respect and all. Suddenly they discover. Some people discover that, some people don't discover that. They discover after the parents are gone. Now they are all having omissions and commissions, guilt. What can I do? When my father was alive, I could not even say that I love you. People are there like this. They have all these feelings. After the father is gone, after the mother is gone, all this guilt is there. I could not spend any time. I did not even call my mother over phone. All these problems. But anyway, the idea is that even children, you do not love your children for children's sake. It is for the sake of oneself alone. So in this context, even Paramarthananji used to say that you have to see this matrimonials ads. So it seems one person put a matrimonial that a groom with 5 acres land is looking for a bride with a tractor. So it is very clear, correct? That bridegroom or whoever, the potential bridegroom is very clear about what he is looking for in his wife. He wants a tractor along with her at least. So like this, it is not Jaya who is the one who is Priya, but it is only Atma. Atmanastu Kamaya Jaya Priya Bhavati. So even your wife is lovable. Why? Because the wife or whatever she brings invokes the pleasing you in you. That is the only reason wife also is lovable. Otherwise, wife also can be divorced and all that nowadays. That is there. Children you cannot divorce, but then that is another problem. Many people don't meet them also. Or wealth also. Wealth in itself, like I told you, wealth can give comfort, but some people, even wealth, maintaining the wealth, safeguarding it, yoga kshema. Yoga means acquiring wealth. Sometimes acquiring wealth is easy. Then you have to protect it. You have to take care of the inflation. Okay, so you should have returns at least to a level where it will cover the inflation. Otherwise, real wealth is going down. So you are worried about that. Kshema is a problem. Yoga, maybe you gained something. Now, how are you going to protect it and maintain it at the same level or even grow it? Problem. Then that becomes a pressure. It is no more pleasurable. After a certain level, even wealth is not pleasurable. Maintaining all this wealth is a problem. So wealth also only if it gives you something which invokes the pleasing you, then only it is lovable. It is deep. Otherwise, that's why many rich people also give up wealth and all that, correct? They give it to charity, lot of it, or even Jains. They are very rich diamond merchants and all that. They are all worth a lot of money, but then they give up everything and become Muni. Like this, we see that. So wealth also is not something which will give you. Then Brahmanaha, here Brahmanaha is the Brahmana Jati. So Brahmanas are also not, so generally Brahmanas are also, they are our teachers. They do all the teaching and they also help you in doing all karma and all that, correct? They are your priests, your teachers. So you love them. But even that love is because they also lead a certain type of lifestyle and they invoke your happiness, correct? The happy self in you. Then only they are also lovable. Similarly, Kshatriyas also. Navare Kshatrasya Kamaya Kshatram Priyam Bhavati. So Kshatriyas protect us, they rule us. If they give a rule which is in keeping with Dharma, then it is good, correct? Otherwise, again, Kshatriyas also, we will not, if they become a tyrant, we want to get rid of them, really. So that is a problem. Then even Loka, you want to go to different Loka, but you don't know whether you will really enjoy whatever is there in that Loka. Lokas also, because you think that whatever is there in that Loka will be enjoyable for you, you want to go there and maybe enjoy. But after going there, Loka also, we only enjoy if whatever is there in that Loka is enjoyable for you. Whether everybody will like whatever is there in a particular Loka, we don't know. Then here you can see Devanam Kamaya Deva Priya Bhav. Okay, Deva also every day Panchamaha Yajna and all we say, correct? We have to take care of our Devas, because Devas are the ones who are looking after all the natural phenomena. With their blessings only we are even getting rains, we are able to cultivate, whatever we have here which supports our life, it is all because of the Devas. But if the Devas do not bless us due to some reason, you have an earthquake, tsunami and all that, then even the Devas are not Priya anymore. People get angry with Ishvara also, correct? There, Swamiji used to say that there was a very popular politician who said that he doesn't believe in God anymore because his wife died. So Swamiji used to say maybe because all the puja she did only, she got relieved from this person earlier. So like that, we don't know. She may have done a lot of puja and the effect of that is she died first. But he says, no, she did lot of prayers and all that, but she went away. So I don't believe. Anyway, so Devas also, whether they are Priya or not, depends on whether whatever they are giving you, you think it is pleasing to you or not. Then Bhutanam Kamaya Bhutani. Bhuta means here in general, all the beings, living beings. Any being, even animals and all that, people want to keep even cows only till they give milk, correct? Once the milk is over, they want to send it for slaughter and all that. So that also is there. So only all these beings also, you think you love them, but only till you get something from them. It is only for your sake alone you love them, not for their sake. So like this, finally what all these things have been listed out here. Then one more thing, Nava are Sarvasya Kamaya Sarvam Priyam Bhavati. Whatever has been left out in this, correct? All the other things also, anything which may give you happiness is pleasing you. It is for that sake only you are loving that, not for the sake of the object itself. The object is invoking a certain pleasing you and therefore you love it. So that is the idea here. From this, why all these things have been said? So that you get Vairagya towards Vishayananda. The Vishaya itself is not important. Anand, you are the source of Ananda really. That is what is pointed out here. Vishayas are incidental. Whatever Vishaya gives you Ananda today may not give it tomorrow, or in the same measure it may not give you, because there is a law of diminishing returns there. And whatever Vishaya gives you Ananda may not give Ananda to some other person. So like this, the Vishaya itself does not have any quality of Ananda or happiness or joy. And again, Vishaya also depends on your state of mind and all those things also. Adhyatmika also, certain things are there. So all of them have to be aligned, then only it invokes the please to you. So from all these things, what we know, you are the source of Ananda. None of the objects can really give you Ananda. That is what you have to understand. so that you get some vairagya towards all this Vishayananda. So that is what is pointed out in this section, which is beautiful, and then only the actual teaching starts. So with this, whatever till now this Yajnavalkya says, it is all for the purpose of giving a certain objective vision about the world around you, correct? You have to look at the world objectively. All our problems are there because we have subjective attributions, correct? Money has purchasing power, that is objective, but money makes me happy is a subjective conclusion which may not be true, or which is not true in fact. So that is what Shobhanadhyasa we say. Shobhanadhyasa, it is said in Shastra. So your own some superimposition you do on a thing, which some qualities which are not there on it, you are superimposing that, and then that will also lead to some dukkha only. Finally, it will lead to some pain. So that is something one should have. You have to take everything as it is objectively. That itself is dispassion. Whatever vairagya we are talking about, that you don't think that something, because of something only I can be happy. That thought, if it goes away, then you can still deal with the objects in the world. That's not a problem. You don't have to hate also. So vairagya is not really hatred or anything. It is dealing with things objectively, understanding whatever they can give, what they cannot give, and based on that you have a certain vision. Okay. So to give that only, all this our Yajnavalkya is saying. So in this Bhashyakara says, from the beginning, if you see, it starts with Pati and ends with Bhuta, means other beings. So there is actually a hierarchy here. Pati and wife, husband and wife are the most dear. Then the children come, correct? Then wealth, then other Brahmana, Kshatriyas, other people, then the Loka. So there is a certain hierarchy here in terms of how lovable these things are. And finally, the Sarva is like a catch-all. Every other object, any other object also, you do not really love it for its sake. You only love it, or it is pleasing to you because it is pleasing to you. So therefore, this Atma has to be known now. So don't try to know all these objects. That's not going to give you anything. Correct? So now Atma is the source of all Ananda. Therefore, you have to know this Atma alone. So that's what Yajnavalkya is leading her to. So this we will see next week. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.